This is a demo of our NFL stack generator on Daily Fantasy Cafe. It's one of its kind at this point. It's the only stack generator that fully integrates into a lineup optimizer as well. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to do is select a site. It's defaulted to DraftKings. We also have FanDuel, Fantasy Hub, and Yahoo, and we'll be adding additional sites in the near future. We're on NFL, and below that we have a tab, and these are basically filtered views of the table below. So it defaults to all players. You have QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and flex. And this little number to the right is the roster position on this particular site. So you're allowed 2 running backs on DraftKings, 3 wide receivers, and so forth. And that will dynamically change as you change your site. We also have excludes, and by default we're excluding the Thursday night game. It's just our default setting, and you can change that as well. We have locks. This is where you'll go to see all your locks. So if you're in a table view and you click lock on a player, you'll see this dynamically update, and you can go here and see all your locked players. We also have an injuries tab, which pulls in injuries each week. These players are designated with a little injury cross next to their name, and you can go in here and exclude and include based on your desire. But below that we have a find player search bar where you can enter in a player name and or player team. So if, for example, if you wanted all the Cincinnati players, you would type in CIN and it'll pull up all players and teams with this combination of letters. So you'll get Buffalo players as well as Cincinnati players, and you can sort. Below that we have a number of lineups, which you can select the number of stacks you want to generate, and then the generate stacks button. To the left we have a filters option, which you can expand by clicking on the plus or the filters text. Next to each option we have a tooltips, which you can hover over and see exactly what this tooltip is about. It'll give you a definition and further instructions if necessary. So we have a filter by salary bar, where you can slide along that bar. It'll dynamically update this number here, or you can just filter out by salary if you know you're looking for a certain salary. And you just click enter, and that will update, and your players will automatically exclude or be included based on this salary. Below that we have that filter by game slate, and it's defaulted to Sunday at 1 p.m. so it filters out that Thursday game automatically. As you change this game slate by clicking on a radio button down below, the teams will gray out. That's when something is excluded on our tool. You'll see a little gray out. It can be tough to see on some of the logos that are black and white, but as you can see, if I click that Falcons logo, you'll see the red, and if I click it again, it'll actually exclude all players in that team. So it's a quick way, if you don't like a certain team, to click on that logo, and all those players will be excluded. Same thing goes for the time. If you want to exclude all games at 4:25 p.m., you could click that time, and all 2 of these games and 4 of these teams will be automatically excluded. And you can do the same by clicking on it again and bringing it back. We also have a filter by team total, which is pretty important if you're looking for high scoring, especially when you're looking at a stack. This is something you'll likely use. It defaults to any. It will include any team total. I'm going to close that and open up advanced options. So we have the number of players you want to include in your stack. So if you select 4 players, you'll get 4 players in your stack. We next have the option to select positions for the stack. So it defaults to 1 QB, and then you can select various numbers for each position. And if I have 4 here, for example, and I select 2, it'll give me the option of 1 or any. And then if you reach that number of players in the stack that you want, it will gray out that last option. I'm going to leave it at any for now. We also have individual player exposure, which if you're familiar with Colossus, you know you turn this on and you can limit the exposure to a certain player. So if you like Andre Ellington, but you don't want him in all your lineups, you can set this exposure at 50% per se. And if you select 10 lineups, he will be in 5 lineups or less. Now, if you lock Andre Ellington, you'll see this exposure defaults to 0%. And what this does is it tells the stack generator that this player must be included whatever percentage you have here. So if you lock and use exposure, and I add in 50% exposure, this player will be in 50% of the generated lineups. So this is a really powerful tool. maybe not used as much with your stack when you're building stacks. You want to see all your options, but still something that's there, and definitely something that you'll see we'll use when we bring over our stacks into Colossus. So we also have our projection models, which apply this predetermined model that we created based on Vegas total. So if, to keep it simple, if a team has a high Vegas total, it will increase the player projection, and if it has a low, it will decrease the player projection. Now we have a formula that establishes how much the decrease and increase is based on the Vegas total, but this is one I use a lot, especially when stacking. Same thing with yards per game allowed. If you're going up against a team that doesn't allow a lot of yards per game to a particular position, that position will be impacted by those statistics. And the same thing for fantasy points allowed. So this is per position. Down here we have reset links. So if you're playing around and you're editing projections and exposure and you want to reset everything you've done, you just click that reset all and it will reset to the default settings. So we also have resetting locks, which just resets your locks, reset excludes, reset exposure, and reset projections. Down below, we have the name column. You have your lock and exclude. Once you lock or exclude, you'll see this icon turn red or green. And if I exclude, you'll see the excluded number go up by 1. And then down below, you will see red cross icons, which I told you are for injuries. And then you have a position column, a team column, opponent, team total, over under for the entire game, average yards per game, average TDs per game, fantasy points per game allowed by the opponent, salary, projection, exposure, and cafe value. You can sort any of these columns up or down, and let's get to it. I'm going to generate a stack or a set of stacks, and you'll see there are groups up here. If I click generate stacks again, it will create a second group. You can name these groups. Fave stack, just press enter. You can sucks, whatever you want this to be, you can name them. You can also remove tabs by clicking that X. Down here you can also name the individual stacks. So my Brady stack, whatever it is, Brady 1, whatever it is that helps you identify this stack. And this becomes important when you start saving. And that's what you can do down here is click this save button and it will update save stacks to 1. That's the number of save stacks that you have here. And so you can look at each of these stacks and determine what you like. You can see how much salary you've used, what the remaining salary is for an entire lineup on this site. You can see the total points that you're projected to make with this stack lineup. And down below you can see position, opponent, salary, some of the same information as above. It does tell you the amount of exposure percentage in this lineup view over here, but you can also click on player use tab and get a very detailed breakdown of all the players that are displayed, exposure percentage, the raw number of times this player has appeared, and additional information as well. So we've saved one stack, we've named it, and now we're going to go to Colossus, the lineup optimizer, and show you how to easily integrate your stacks and build a lineup around those stacks. So under advanced options, you go down to stacking and you turn this on. When you do this, it'll give you a message that says it'll clear all your current locks, because what it's going to do is it's going to lock these players from your Brady 1 stack. It's going to gray out some of these other advanced options that will conflict with this stack. It'll also give you an option for exposure on your stack. So if we're generating 25 lineups and I only want my stack in 10% of those or 50% of those, whatever it may be, you can adjust that exposure here. Click generate lineups. And down below, the lineups will show you the most optimal lineups. 50% of them will be around your Brady stack. So what Colossus is saying is that your stack isn't optimal enough to put up top. It doesn't have the highest point total. But as you scroll down, you'll start to see Tom Brady down here with your stack locked in 50%. It actually is the bottom half. But if you wanted to see your stack in all the lineups, just leave that at 100, click generate lineups, and you'll see a ton of different options, or as many as you want. Up to 4 or 5 tabs of 100 each. You could see 500 lineups based around your stack. So super powerful. Once again, once you're in Colossus, You can do a ton of things like save your lineups, download your lineups, and use a bunch of other advanced options. Hope you enjoy it. Good luck.